It's great to have global set of participants and audience for this webinar. And what I would like to set up is some side of the housekeeping rules to begin with as we start this webinar. Uh, Please be on mute throughout the webinar. It will help the participants who are actually presenting to kind of have a very kind of a, let's say, good experience of their presentations. If you have any queries, please put that in the chat window, which is available down below, and it will be relayed to me, and I will ask our leaders around these queries. So what we are trying to do out here, and this is, I would say, a very great initiative what we have just started with. And while we've been doing AIQRATE webinar special CXO series over the last few months, but we felt that I think we need this platform to kind of make it much more bigger. And thanks to Dr. Shai Moses and Kavita and Gal who came together. And for the first time, we are talking about uh, combining together the economic and the trade mission of Israel to India in association with AIQRATE to present the AI showcase sessions with the Israel startups. Now, let me give a background what we are talking about through this webinar and what's the intent of this entire session. So over the next 75 minutes or so, we would be demonstrating 3 top-of-the-line AI startups from Israel. And many of these leaders are joining from multiple countries. We have some leaders joining from Singapore, some from Israel. But here is the whole aspect over there. Today, artificial intelligence has really grown multifold in terms of advancements, not only enterprises, startup or PVC firms or small and medium enterprises are consuming analytics and AI. It's also being talked about in the foremost business lexicon within the CXO community. And if that's not enough, we also have a lot of nations. In fact, to be precise, 33 nations today, 33 countries have their own AI policies. Now, that's the extent what we're talking about. Having said that, artificial intelligence is a very wide, it's a very expansive field. AI capabilities are enormous, be it conversational AI, be it kind of, let's say, the thing about image classification, or the aspect about computer vision or algorithmic decision making. And for any enterprise, any B2B customer, or any B2B kind of a client who's seeking to fulfill the AI capabilities, there is a two-pronged approach. One approach is what you can inbuild or kind of, let's say, in-house capture these capabilities and build from ground up, or you can externally leverage, do a partnership, do a kind of a, let's say, build, operate, transfer, or even do an acquisition model in terms of having these capabilities running for you. So what we are trying to do out here is showcasing 3 marquee AI startups: AnyVision, Pecan AI, and SparkBeyond. And we have 3 leaders from their side coming and demonstrating in a quick 20 minutes window, not only about their capabilities, what they do in terms of solving large, complex, unresolved problems through AI, but they would also be demonstrating about their product solutions and platform. And you will have a time window to even ask questions to them. So we will have 20 minutes each for all these 3 leaders to talk about their organizations, and 15 minutes, I would say 12 to 15 minutes of their presentation, followed by 5 to 7 minutes of the Q&A. But before I start, this entire session and series wouldn't have been possible if we didn't have Dr. Shai. Now, let me give a brief introduction about Dr. Shai. Dr. Shai is the Consul for Trade and Economic Affairs at the Consulate General of Israel to South India. And while he's a renowned name in India in terms of interacting with multiple Indian startup and enterprises, and his range of activities and interests includes in terms of promoting the joint ventures, trade investments of bringing Israel and Indian companies and startups together. And Dr. Shai is very passionate about deep technologies, the whole aspect about bringing Israel and India startups together. And this is where we believe, I think these kind of, let's say, platforms would be a showcase for our global participants, global enterprises, global senior leaders to understand the depth and the applications and adoptions of AI and how AI is becoming today embedded as part of CXO strategies. So over to you, Dr. Shai.
Thank you very much, my dear friend Sameer. It's lovely to be here and to organize together with you this webinar. I think the field of AI, as you mentioned, is going to stay here, going just to be just bigger and bigger. So, as Sameer, you mentioned, I'm the economic consul of Israel to India, reside in Bangalore, and for the past 4 years, working here together with my team, and Kavita is also in my team here today in the seminar, to promote these kinds of joint activities between Israeli and Indian companies. And something that we share in common, see a lot of attention, is about technology, also in deep technology. So whenever we are trying to promote trade and investment activities, we're doing it across the board. But I have to say, when it comes to technology, then we see a lot of success, a lot of hunger between both sides to cooperate and think of how to deliver solutions to their clients and to them themselves. So being also a major hub for system integrators, Bangalore, specifically India at large. So we see a lot of cooperation also with the system IT vendors, matching them with different kinds of technologies, Israeli technologies, and then also looking for clients, Europe, US, elsewhere. So many times we see also working in India, also working with India towards the global market. And this is one of these occasions that I met Sameer, which I saw as also a great passionate specifically for artificial intelligence and machine learning segment. And as we all know, we had this kind of pandemic hitting us in the last couple of months very hard. In Israel also we had to cope with that, and luckily we are now seeing the, let's say, lifting the restriction and going back to normalcy. In India, it may take a little while still, but in the end, if I ask myself also, will that affect us negatively or positively, the field of AI and the willingness to go to deep solutions? So my answer is clearly this segment will only grow from this crisis. And so we thought of doing this seminar, join forces with the Israeli Export Institute, who is here also represented by Gal, thought of giving these kinds of exposure. So we have very good companies, three good companies that gives a range of activities, how they cope or try to integrate their kinds of algorithms and then kind of AI tools in their fields. But really, it's an exposure also to the much more capabilities that the Israeli ecosystem would bring together. So we take this opportunity really to do kind of an introduction to the ecosystem and to some AI capabilities there. And looking through this webinar with your participations coming from different companies and different fields, to think of what kind of cooperations can emerge between Israel and India, looking to tackle challenges we all face today. So without too much taking time here, I wish us a very successful webinar. And again, it's an invitation to be in touch with Sameer and with us later on to think of new ventures. We are very much open to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Shai, and really great of you and your team to kind of work on this initiative, because as you rightly said, I think there's a lot between India and Israel, which is going on the AI side. And the need of the hour today is for the enterprises, for the clients, for the customers to really look at the whole stack of artificial intelligence, machine learning, platform solutions, and capabilities, and look at how they can actually institutionalize within their enterprise. And through this exercise, our endeavor is to kind of jointly work in terms of showcasing the Israel startups, specifically from an artificial intelligence point of view, so that a lot of our global participants can actually witness and kind of really absorb what's going on in terms of the latest and greatest within the Israel AI startup ecosystem. So with that, thank you so much for your time. And we will start with Richard. And Richard is the Vice President and Managing Director APAC at AnyVision. Over to you, Richard. Richard.
Sameer, this is NK here. Looks like Richard is not yet joined, but I see Mr. Arun Poojari online, so we can ask him to go online and continue with the presentation, please. Mr. Arun, are you there? I can see.
Yeah, I'm here. Look, I'm happy to fill in. No problems.
Hey, Arun, okay, thank you so much for taking this plunge of being the first one. Please go ahead and showcase, please. And maybe it will be good if you can please introduce yourself and from there on talk about the capabilities of SparkBeyond.
Sure. Let me just make sure I share a screen. Let me know if you can see it. If yes,
perfect.
Should be good.
Please go ahead.
Very good. So thank you, Sameer. Thank you, Dr. Shai, and appreciate you setting the background. My name is Arun Poojari. I happen to be based in Singapore right now. I was born in Bombay, but given my love affair with Israel, I think I've become a half Israeli by now. I've been working for almost 11 years with Israeli companies in different capacities. Privileged to be managing the SparkBeyond business in Asia Pacific right now. SparkBeyond is a young 7-year-old company. We were born in about 2013. In Israel, and as we took a left, decided to go to US and set up base, we also decided to turn right and set up shop in Singapore, which is not what usual AI startup companies do. Usually they turn left, be in US, then they turn right, be in Europe, and if there is an event happening, then they come to APAC. I had a real job before this with Microsoft, but I knew friends from Israel for a long time. And they said, look, we are starting off. Would you like to come on board and we can start the APAC operations? Never looked back after that. What we try and do, and our vision is a bit of a mouthful right now, saying harnessing humanity's collective intelligence to solve the world's most important challenges. And no better challenge than COVID at this point of time. What I will do in the next 17 minutes that we have is I'll try and unpack what this means. And what it means for you, what does it mean for augmenting problem solving? We believe, as both Sameer and Dr. Shai said, AI has taken great strides. Today, you can do autonomous driving, you can have vision, you can have NLP. We focused our attention on problem solving, saying, is there a way to apply AI creatively so that it can look beyond the traditional bias when you look at information and come up with insights that you may not have thought about? You can call it smart data mining, you can call it smart pattern detection, but what you would see as I do the presentation and also as I do the demo, which I want to spend more time on, you would see a different approach at play, one that works with you as a partner in helping you expand your thinking. Very quickly, what are we and where are we? Today we are over 200 people, spread across 6 different locations or 7 different locations. I sit in Singapore. I have a hub in Bangkok. We have an office in Melbourne. Israel is where our head office is, and we have offices in New York, London, and Poland. We've been described by many people in many different ways. The Wall Street Journal has said we typically find things that a normal human would not find. Tech Republic said we can look at hundreds of different ideas and so on and so forth. But I would love for you to remember three distinct concepts. One, there is a very creative ability of the platform to be able to find insights where human or any other technique would potentially suffer. Second, we are very exhaustive in the way we look at insights. We don't limit ourselves just to what the data is given or what the data is provided by the client. We connect it to various external data sources. For example, we have built in Wikipedia into the platform. We have built in news sources, weather data, OpenStreetMaps. All these are open sources of information, and we are constantly expanding and partnering with people who own this data set. Finally, like any good researcher, the machine is looking for 24/7. What are the different drivers that are emerging from the platform? So those are the three core principles on how the platform works. I will make it real with a demo, but I did notice there are some techies in the audience who would love to know what does this mean from a technology perspective. So very simply put, the machine takes in different types of data stored in different places. We can also augment the capacity by taking images and other things. We then have various external data sources, whether it is maps, weather, news, so on and so forth, and constantly expanding. Inside, we have a core library of functions, or what we call Lego blocks. These are codes or snippets of code that are helping software write software. And what the platform does is it can make discoveries, it can generate features for machine learning, and it can go on to build automatic auto ML models. If any of you are interested, I'm happy to set up a deeper session. But in order to entertain you on a Tuesday evening, I thought what better way than to invite Bollywood to do a bit of a demo with you and actually showcase how the platform works. So what we have done, and many of you may be familiar with the problem statement or with the data set, we actually went into IMDb and we collected the last 20 years of data by movie title, when was it released, release date, genre, was it a sequel, who are the actors, directors, whether it was a hit or a flop, and we also collected different posters from it. We took in all this. Be gentle to SparkBeyond because we don't understand Bollywood at all. But what we asked the machine to do is to try and explain to us what makes a movie hit or flop. Now, we have no domain expertise. We are not seeking any external inputs. All we are doing is we're going to set up this problem with the data set that we have. I'm going to switch screens at this point of time, and I'll seek confirmation if you can see the screen. Can you see a different screen? I'm not sure how WebEx works these days. Is it showing you a new screen, or is it still showing you the presentation?
It is not, Mr. Arun. I can see a blank screen only.
Okay, very good. Which means security systems work. Okay, let me know if you can see my web browser right now.
Yeah, we do. Thank you.
Excellent. So this is what we call the canvas for problem solving. These are all the movie related details that we have. When was the movie released, the genre, and so on and so forth. We've simply added a word to vec, and we've connected this to Wikipedia. We have thousands of data sets that are built in. For example, right here, we can connect to Wikipedia and OpenStreetMap. We can also connect this to other data sources that exist in the platform, which are collected from different countries. Let me just cancel that. So all I do is I tell the machine, can you please explain to me why is a movie hit or flop? And all I do is pick up the target and I say run. Now, when I say run, for those of you who may remember the architecture diagram, there was a number of different functions underneath, and the platform will very quickly start making those transformations using different pieces of code. I will show you what happens. Like a good chef, even though I did not know that I'll have to do first, I ran the pipeline and I kept. It took us about 4 minutes and 29 seconds to run this pipeline. We explored about 10.3 million ideas in those 4.5 minutes. Humanly, it's not possible to explore 10.3 million ideas. Typically, the way one would have experimented is, you would think, what happens if there is Shah Rukh Khan? Let's see maybe if the movie is hit, what happens if they have acted in a certain movie? And you would go through each of these sequentially. We've explored 10.3 million ideas. Not all of those ideas make sense because some of them are garbage. The platform has intelligently chosen about 300 different ideas, and we've also gone on to build a model. Model is not so important. What is important for us right now is how did the platform select some of these cool ideas that it believes is most necessary? So we have a view, and I'll just change my screen, confirming you can see it. I'm just going to show you a snapshot of about 6 different ideas from those 300 that the platform came up with. For example, one of the ideas that the platform came up with, it said actors who have starred in the movie Dil To Pagal Hai. If you have the same actors, there's a chance that the movie is 5 times more likelihood to be a hit. Now, most of you know who were the actors in Dil To Pagal Hai. My memory fades me, but I remember there was Shah Rukh Khan and probably Rani Mukherjee at that point of time. But we know that happened. Now, this was interesting because what it did there is it essentially looked at the database. It looked at which are the actors that are common across all the hit movies. So it was within the data set. But look at this particular one. It says actors who are born in the year 1965. Now, nowhere in the data set did we put date of birth of actors. Yet, the platform in those 4.5 minutes has figured out that actors who were born in the year 1965 are more likely to produce 5 times more likely to produce a hit movie. Now, let me tell you how the platform figured this out. It took the database, and for every actor, it went into Wikipedia. It made a connection to say when are these actors born, and it started looking at that particular correlation. And then very quickly, it realized if you're born in the year 1965, you tend to be a hit movie. Now, I can't ask this in real time. Do you know the answer? But for those of you, if you want to type in on the chat quickly, I'll be very happy to see the answer. But if I can give you the spoiler of why this is the case. Sameer, you want to take a guess? Why would that be the case? And I need some feedback.
Not sure.
Not sure? Okay, I was testing your Bollywood skills, Sameer, in real time.
Ask me about cricket. Bollywood is something which I'm absolutely away from. But yeah, go ahead, please.
So what happened here is the 3 Khans were born in the year 1965. So Shah Rukh, Salman, and Amir were all 3 born in the year 1965. And I can go investigate this particular thing in a little bit more detail, where if I go underneath, you see right here, it's picked up all these actors and it's gone into Bollywood and it's seen when were they born, what were the things that they have received, and therefore it makes a very quick judgment that if you're born in the year 1965, it's another way of saying, these are the possible actors. But it's also figured out, what's the runtime of the movie. If it's more than a certain hour, the movie tends to be a hit. If you won Padma Shri, what happens? If the movie is in a certain genre, what happens? So, there are 300 such ideas. I'm very happy to go through. Some of them will be very obvious. And by the way, we don't want to, discredit any of our own genius, because the machine will find what you know. That's the job of the machine, but it'll also find things that you didn't know. And that creates a conversation and that leads to change. Now, we take this approach. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to a different browser again. Let me just get this out. So this approach of finding the unknown, or putting a large surface area, shame on us if we just use it for commercial purpose. It is in our DNA to ensure that we constantly use the approach for the greater good. And whether it was advancing colorectal cancer and finding, markers that otherwise were not possible and increasing early detection by 13x, whether it is partnering with X Prize and working on climate change. COVID-19 is an information problem. You want to know a lot of things. We've been working with various government organizations across the world. I did see a question as I was entering that, what can one do with COVID-19? I invite any of you, if you're involved with COVID-19 related issues, we're very happy to extend our pro bono efforts and join forces with you to be able to use our platform, your approach, and see how we can help, for the greater good. And this is where we're talking about COVID-19. We've seen, you don't have a vaccine today. There is no fighting chance. Your best chance is information. We are doing projects, one, where we are helping identify clusters of people based on testing or other markers. We are helping what places one may have been to based on mobility data, footfall data. We're helping when businesses should reopen, what could be the demand forecasting and other things. So there's a myriad of problems that we're working across COVID using the platform. That doesn't mean we don't do anything on the commercial space. Our job is a technology platform. We believe in transferring technology to the client, so the client can run and operate the platform in different use cases, whether it is insurance, globally, financial services, and we are very active in India, pharmaceuticals, retail industry is helping understand where to open up new store locations or assortment, CPG, telco, so on and so forth. So there's very different use cases that we have set up. This is what I had in mind to showcase right now. Happy to pause, take questions and feedback from the team.
Great. So Arun, first of all, thanks so much for chipping in, being the first one, and we have Richard back, so we'll start with him. But before that, one, of course, it's fascinating because anything to do with Bollywood and cricket, you touch a lot of hearts in India, and you really did that. So thanks for initiating. But more importantly, there is one question which has come in, and I have one from my side as well. But the first one from the audience side. Do you guys do anything using the geospatial data? Because you're talking about bringing insights and recommendations and intelligence from non-obvious sources of data. So anything on the geospatial data side, what you guys have done, or any kind of a project or engagement you would like to highlight?
Sure, I can highlight this particular retail scenario that we did. This was for a large chain in Japan. They constantly open stores and close stores, and they understand very well what drives profitability for stores. There's a dedicated team for that. This is purely a geospatial problem. You have footfall, your proximity to certain known things will always drive profitability, and the client had a very good idea. For example, they knew that being next to dense neighborhoods or train stations in Japan is good. We decided to pick this up and augment their own thinking. We took the client's data, sales, profitability, other things, promotions data. We combined it with external OpenStreetMap data. One of the things we discovered that if you have a laundromat within 350 meters, store profitability tends to be high. We were all scratching our heads. What does laundromat have to do with store location profitability? But it so happens that, when you go to a laundromat, which is, when you go to a laundromat, you have time. And that's when you also decide to get into buy your wasabi and spices and spend time. So that was a very interesting discovery on geospatial that we made. We've, of course, gone on to do many such similar things.
Great. There's also a question about, I would take in the same kind of, let's say, quantum about the CPG. While you have one of kind of an engagement which talks about uplifting the gross margin, but anything outside of what you guys have done on the CPG side, would you like to detail, please?
So, sure, Sameer. Look, firstly, it's important to remember, we're not a consulting company. We're a platform company. We're a technology company. Our goal is to empower and transfer technology. Our clients do a number of different use cases, using the platform. So right from doing assortment, promotion, media mix, there's been a number of use cases that have come in CPG. CPG tends to be an industry that naturally lends itself to a platform like ours, given that they use so much of external data set. And in today's world, when you have to do rapid trend detection, it becomes even more important. So there's a number of use cases on that part.
Great, wonderful. And you talked about the platform and the solution kind of, let's say, capability. The platforms, what you're talking about, when you kind of, let's say, do those engagements and kind of solve those problems for your clients, is it leveraging the platform, or it's a kind of a blend of platform and consulting put together?
So, it's the reason we exist is because we're a platform company. And my job is to show a brand new way of problem solving using the platform. But that is, 50% of the story. The other 50% is the methodology. Telling him, look, now you've found an interesting insight. How do you communicate? What kind of a dashboard you can build? If you come from the machine learning model building aspect, there's a bunch of feature engineering that we have done automatically. You can take that and pipe it into it. It's important we choose clients who have a portfolio of problem and who have a portfolio mix of wanting to solve these problems on an ongoing basis. So for me, an engagement which is only a one-time intervention is not a good engagement. For me, an engagement is good when the client wants to do this on their own for a longer time.
Wonderful. Great, Arun. Thank you so much for your time. I think there's a lot what I think you kind of demonstrated in terms of the real aspect about the problem solving intelligence on a real time basis. I would love the analogy what you had on the Bollywood side. And thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming on this webinar session. Richard, if you're there, we'll move to you. Richard is the MD and VP APAC for AnyVision. Over to you, Richard.
Thanks very much. Let me see if I can share my screen. Give me a second here. Can you see that?
Yes, all good. Please go ahead.
Fantastic. That's great. Give me one more second. Super. I'm not super familiar with WebEx, unfortunately, so it's not my strong point, but we'll get there nonetheless. All right, listen, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Really, this is a opportunity to talk about some technologies, obviously in the AI space, and we know that we're living in very uncertain times at the moment. I appreciate everyone's involvement and opportunity to talk through some of the aspects that we are seeing as AnyVision in this space. As we know, the world has changed. Operations, technology, security leaders in every industry are trying to figure out how to protect their people and their businesses and return them to some form of work quickly, as quickly as possible, to be honest. There's a very thoughtful McKinsey article that points out how critical the use of technology will be in helping leaders accomplish this. This quote from a banking CIO, I think really sums it up. And you can see how it says, all eyes are on me, and I'm trying to deal with exploding online loads, people working remotely, new cyber threats. Every day, it's something new. One of the most pressing topics out there right now is the role of surface contact in virus transmission. Regardless of where the science ends up, humanity's relationship with surfaces will change, probably for the long term, but at least until there's a vaccine. In this example, you can see the New York Police Department using fingerprint biometrics. They've suspended their fingerprint authentication. It's reasonable to assume that the use of print biometrics and any entry protocol that requires any form of human touch will ultimately vanish. Early adopters have already started using opt-in facial recognition for onboarding and remote access through mobile phones. We believe that resuming services during self-seclusion or quarantines will require this capability. As non-essential medical care resumes, and as, for example, bank branches open, we still see there being a much higher demand for secure remote access. An unfortunate reality of economic downturn is a rise in crime. Based on government research, lower GDP, consumer sentiment, and employment rates correlate tightly with higher property crime. It could be burglary or robbery or larceny. So security is now more important than ever. We've seen an increase in interest from both the public and private sector in visual intelligence solutions, specifically facial recognition. We expect coronavirus safety measures to accelerate adoption of any technology that can enhance safety. Specifically, technology that eliminates the need to touch anything to securely enter a building or an area. Something that supplements existing human and hardware security capabilities and gives people secure access to remote services. Computer vision technology provides proven capabilities to help you deliver enhanced safety to your business. You may have read some of the analyst research out there about computer vision. If not, there's a great Gartner report. They do a really good job of summarizing the value of computer vision to organizations. It's ultimately not just competitive advantage, it's survival. And the operational benefits are more automation, better decision support, improved customer experience, and lower operational cost. It's clear that because of the increased focus on safety, the 3 core real-world applications of computer vision are being adopted at an even faster pace. Let's talk a little bit about each of these capabilities, how you can safely get your operation back to the new normal. We're talking about touchless access control, intelligent vision for security, and remote identity authentication and verification. Let's start with touchless access control. Most people on this call, their business would probably have used at least one, if not all, of these entry solutions. You got your typical card turnstiles, your print biometrics, and your keypads. We believe that these methods will vanish very quickly in the new reality. Touchless access control means that any gate or boom or access point can be opened using facial recognition. It's very simple to operationalize. A user uploads images of the people who are granted access. An edge device or your existing CCTV is positioned at the point of entry, and the device or CCTV lets the right people in and keeps the wrong people out. We've got an example over here. As you can see, this gentleman, you can see. Not sure if that's playing, but what happens is he walks up to the boom gates. You can see that there is a tablet on the wall. It recognizes his face and opens up the gates for him. So it's using facial recognition to seamlessly open up the gates. The 5 things to look for when you're considering best-in-class technology are, number 1, accuracy and speed. You don't want to create friction at important entry points, and you want it to work. Also important is having the ability to detect if someone is just holding up a photograph, for example, of someone who's in the system, or walking in behind someone who's in the system. Rather than sunsetting the systems you have, you want to be able to integrate with existing infrastructure. So you want to be able to use your existing cameras and hardware. Finally, depending on the market, it's important that the system is compatible with GDPR and local privacy laws. I do have another video here. I am hoping it's going to play. Let's give it a go.
Abraxas utilizes our industry-leading face recognition capabilities to create a secure and seamless user experience. Abraxas takes advantage of your existing infrastructure and provides surprising solutions with no extra cost. The enrollment process is easy with our designated app. The user takes a picture of his ID, then shoots a quick video of himself for the liveness detection. Abraxas is easily integrated with your existing hardware and access control systems. It's really just plug and play. It also adds features such as restricted areas and guest overdue. Abraxas will detect and alert you of any spoofing attempt and prevent tailgating in real time. Just don't forget your head.
We're seeing a huge increase in demand for touchless access control. In fact, I read a report, an article in Today, one of the big publications in Australia, that spoke about how companies are migrating towards touchless access control. Very interesting space to be in at the moment. The next capability is intelligent vision for watch list alerting. Now more than ever, in a time of decreased or compromised manpower, it's both impossible and unfair to expect people alone to catch every single threat that shows up on a screen. It's up to technology to help your security team to catch everything. And how this works is simple. Your user uploads a watch list. The software is integrated with existing cameras and video management systems. And once it's up and running, the user gets real-time automated alerts when the system detects someone on the watch list. The first thing to look for in a solution is what we call performance in the wild. You've seen the facial recognition terminals, I'm sure, at airports, passport control. It's very easy to get recognition right in a controlled environment, but it's very difficult to get it right when lighting is poor or someone's wearing a hat or glasses or these days a face mask. That's the test of accuracy, less than ideal conditions. You want to be able to use your existing infrastructure and scale the capability to multiple sites. Some systems are more efficient than others. You'll need graphical processing units for the system to work, and the fewer you need, the lower your total cost of ownership. And as with access control, be on the lookout for solutions that are privacy law compatible. Got another video over here that'll show you a little bit around intelligent vision.
There is more than one way to find a needle in a haystack. Some are smarter than others. The same thing goes when it comes to finding people, or anything, really.
Reporting on a robbery of a jewelry store about 15 minutes ago on a main street, sending you a picture of the suspect.
Our cutting-edge technology will make your existing cameras smart, protecting the privacy of innocent bystanders and alerting you of your people of interest. Welcome to a better tomorrow.
Got it. But without the suitcase.
Our AI engine will empower your people with cutting-edge tools that go way beyond facial recognition, like search by attributes, and body recognition that allows you to keep tracking even when the suspect's face is out of reach. You can even search using a general description, making investigations fast and intuitive.
Found the suitcase. Sending the info to the relevant unit.
Better Tomorrow works with any camera, low to high res, stationary, or on the go. It will integrate with your existing infrastructure and VMS system seamlessly, showing live locations both outdoors and indoors. With the ability of streaming and analyzing unlimited amount of videos, either forensic or real-time, Better Tomorrow is built for one thing: to give your people superpowers.
All right, let's talk about remote authentication and verification as the last piece of the puzzle. It's likely that even after the first wave of the virus, when it's over, people will want to access more services remotely. Some service providers will want to validate a person's identity remotely to give them secure on-site access. Facial recognition integrated into existing apps like a banking or a healthcare provider app does exactly that. And it's simple to operationalize. The customer opens the provider's app, uses the camera in their device to prove they are who they're meant to be, and service either continues remotely or their identity is captured by the app for validation in person at a physical point of service. As with the other two solutions, speed and accuracy is critical, and being able to detect liveness is essential. It's also important that the capability work on any device with any operating system and in any app. As with any tech, the question is, does it scale? And lastly, it should be compliant with local privacy laws. And we've got one more video just to show you our capability in the remote authentication and verification arena.
Sesame is an SDK that provides a seamless and secure way for users to enroll and authenticate into their account. The enrollment process is easy. Using the smartphone camera, the user takes a snap of his ID and then shoots a quick video of himself. Sesame will verify that the ID is legitimate and use the video to make sure that the user is a real person. Then, using our cutting-edge facial recognition technology, Sesame will compare between the two to see that they match and check your database to make sure that this user doesn't already exist. This entire process takes only a few seconds. Authentication is even easier. All the user needs to do is look quickly into the camera, and he is in.
So that gives you a quick overview of our capabilities in the AI space, using AI to map to facial recognition, solving real-world problems. I'll leave you with AnyVision's mission, which is to dedicate our core computer vision technology, our expertise, and our resources to supporting the organizations and businesses on the front lines of enhancing safety. And I'm sure, if we've got some time for questions, happy to take them. I'm sure the first question will be is, what are we doing around COVID-19? I saw that was already asked. We do have a couple of areas besides for the touchless access control, where you're limiting surface contact. We're also able to recognize faces wearing face masks with a high level of accuracy, based on our algorithm, which is really the differentiator in our competitiveness in the market. And then finally, we do also have the ability to do contact tracing, so N+1, where we use facial recognition to recognize the proximity that you may have been in contact with a carrier of COVID-19. This is successfully currently implemented in some hospitals throughout the world. And interestingly, whilst you think it may be your security teams that are having to utilize the technology, actually it's the nurses on the that are on the front line that are actually using AnyVision's UI to trace and track some of the frontline staff that have come into contact with COVID-19 patients. So with that, I'm happy to try and answer any questions and see what we can come up with.
Thanks, Richard, for a very riveting and fascinating kind of session. It shows enormous possibilities what computer vision can do in terms of enhancing the human intelligence. While we have time for one question, and I'll take that because we have to have Asher coming in next for a session. The question is more about human emotions as gauged through these computer vision cameras, and specifically when it comes to understanding the moods and emotions and behavior of the employees. How does organizations who are leveraging talent, or let's say HR, how are those HR managers or leaders looking at these emotions, behaviors to understand the mood or understand the performances of their employees and workforce?
Yeah, so look, it's quite an intricate question because there's a lot of complexities behind that. We're looking at the advancements of the the camera technology into the AI camera space itself. We also are working on future products that will look at trends and behaviors with regards to in the retail space specifically. So heat maps, the amount of time people are spending in different areas within a geographical space. We have the ability to map to attributes as well. So we can actually tell male or female, for example. We can look at color of clothing. What we're also able to do, and addressing one of the other questions, is we are able to recognize body as well. So we don't just do facial recognition, we do body recognition as well, which comes into play where you've got certain jurisdictions that don't allow facial recognition. We're seeing more in the around thermal as well. So, you know, from a temperature perspective, you know, look, from, you know, emotion and the enhancements around, you know, around HR, this is an ever-evolving space. You know, from our perspective, our neural network is incredibly unique and incredibly strong, and it opens up the ability for us to, you know, really go in any direction. Our focus right now is on, you know, protecting people, protecting property, and protecting the perimeter. So whilst we, you know, enhance, you know, employees' experience, we're also there to protect the staff as well. So that's something that becomes of, you know, a uniqueness and huge value for our customers and prospects.
Wonderful. This was great, Richard. Thank you so much for being there at the session. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Next, we have Asher. Asher is the Director of Business Development at Pecan AI. Asher, over to you, please.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So I'd love to share with you what we've been doing with at Pecan, and after that, I'd be happy for any questions.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll just share my screen. So just in terms of personal introduction, so my name is Asher Geffen. I direct business development and partnerships at Pecan. I've been at the company for the past half year. Before Pecan, I was at McKinsey for several years, leading what McKinsey has been doing in Israel in the startup and technology ecosystem, leading a lot of partnerships with McKinsey and helping different Fortune 500s navigate through what to do with innovation and corporate venturing. So very familiar with the other side of the table as well. So about Pecan. Pecan basically is a company that set out to make predictive analytics a lot more accessible and a lot more simple. Before I go into exactly what we do, just a bit of context about the company. The company is 3 years old, backed by Dell Technologies and S Capital. S Capital is ex-Sequoia investors. The company is very deep from a science and technology point of view. We're about 30 team members, most of which are either PhDs or intelligence AI experts. The two founders, Zohar and Noam, are PhDs from Tel Aviv University in computational neuroscience. And that's basically where the company's DNA and know-how came from. We've been working with several multinational companies globally in North America, Europe. We began to touch a bit of work with Asian companies and love to expand, especially to India. So basically, what do? We help companies take the journey from the BI reporting stage to implementing AI-based predictive analytics. Usually implementing data science-based predictions is a very intensive project, both in terms of the investment needed, the know-how and the talent, which is usually very scarce and very expensive. We basically developed a platform that's automated and that enables an analyst who he or she are not necessarily data scientists, but rather an analyst that is more close to the business to not only create BI reporting, but also to create predictive models that can help the business. And we're very business impact oriented. We do that in use cases around helping companies increase retention, helping companies decrease the cost of customer acquisition, help companies implement operational excellence and reduce costs in terms of supply chain and especially around procurement, and also around predictive maintenance. We help that operational excellence and by reducing downtime, by indicating beforehand problems that may come up. Before I dive into exactly what we do, this is basically a very high-level illustration. So in the AI predictive analytics field, you can basically look at two extremes. One extreme is looking at very point solutions that are curated to a very specific use case. And the other extreme is basically to have a dedicated data science team create a specific model. That model usually would be very precise, but it would take a very long time to implement. So unless you're creating an underwriting model for the life insurance of a very big insurance company, so that would be relevant for it. But for others, it's usually the challenge of when does the model actually get to production and get to show business value. Basically, what we do is that we are enabling companies across their business activities to create predictive models in a very short time with a very high, and I would add enough precision. Basically, we help companies that get from a very low AI predictive analytics savviness to be very high, in implementing AI predictions. That is very good enough for creating business value around several areas where beforehand companies usually were not using predictive analytics because it's such an investment. We do that basically by two main components that differentiate us from other companies and enable us to deliver extreme value. One is automating the pre-processing data. In English, basically that means that we know how to connect to raw data sources that any of your companies, I assume, have. The CRM, the ERP, any internal Excel sheets, any SQL database, any kind of data that's stored within the company. By the way, also without out of the company, it's third-party data that can be relevant, geographical data, demographics, whatever it is, as long as it's data that's warehoused, that's in tables in some way or form, we know how to connect to that data, do all of the data building and data preparation, which is necessary in order to model the data. Usually when creating a predictive model, more than 90% of the data is actually taken for that stage, for basically restructuring, imputation, enrichment, all of that stages of data is usually a lot of, very intensive. So we basically automate that stage and enable the analysts in the company to connect the data to our platform and to create the model itself. And this brings us to the second stage that we introduce. We introduced predefined models, predefined templates that enable the user to create a model on his or her own. So, for example, for several use cases, for example, if a company is interested in creating a model to predict the propensity of a customer to churn, and by that know to prioritize to which customer to approach and how, so you go into the churn template, and the template takes you step by step, side by side, and guides you in building that model in a very business language. So you define who the customer is, you define how do you define churn, whether is the customer going to leave you after a week, after a year, when did the customer start being a customer, every how much time do you want to run the model, very business language. So the user of this platform, the analyst that is part of the business unit, the only thing he or she needs to know is to know the business, challenge and the business prediction that they want to create. And they also need to know their data, which that's their job. They know where the data is and what it means. But they do not need to know what kind of model, AI model they want to do. They don't need to be a data scientist, and they can produce a very valid and precise model in a matter of hours and days. But basically, this is what we do on the sales and marketing aspect, and we do this also in several other use cases. But in a sense, what we know how to do is to connect to several data sources as they are, ingest them and create one data source, enabling us to create predictions and actionable predictions, where this is the most important part, of several use cases that affect the top line or the bottom line if we're talking about the expenses. So around propensity to churn, the customer segmentation, marketing ROI, any kind of areas over there. Supply chain optimization. We also do fraud and risk detection, fraud detection and risk scoring, and several others. And this is basically an overview from the technology point of view. We also build the data, and we also model the data and create and make it into very actionable predictions and insights. And all this is done connecting from the data sources, both internal to the company and external, and giving the analysts, who are usually just doing the reporting, looking back, also the capability of predicting looking forward. And we do this mostly as a self-serve platform, that this is basically beyond the Power BI and the Tableau and the BI systems. Now we're basically adding the layer of the prediction. We also have an option of support, giving a bit more support from our side. I'll pause here for any questions, or do you want me to go through a few use cases and then we'll finish with a few questions, whatever you think is best.
I think, why don't we cover the case studies quickly, and then we can take a couple of questions, Asher.
Sure, absolutely.
Great.
Okay, so just I'll breeze through a few of the case studies just to give a bit more of a flavor and a bit more see where the impact is. This is an example with one of the large global pharmaceutical and medical device companies. We help them better predict the lead time and the time of delivery from their manufacturing sites in Asia to their sites in Europe and the United States. Here there were two challenges. The first challenge was uniting the different SAP systems that they're working with, and basically creating one language and one data set that sometimes they were calling different products and different batches and different names and different systems. So we know how to connect to different systems. By the way, we're part of a SAP program that we're now building a partnership with them. It's very much in line with this. So that's one set. And the other set is that we help them a lot more to predict a lot more precisely the delivery time, including a lot of different variables, which of course affects multiple sides of the business. In other areas, in customer predictive analytics, so for one of the drinking and brewery CPGs, one of the larger EU companies, we help them in a solution to increase retention and to increase revenue by understanding upsell opportunities and to identify retention and propensity to churn of key accounts. And also on the CFO side, we know how to predict who is prone to fall back on payments and take preemptive measures beforehand. So this is based basically on transactional data from within their CRM and also part of the components of their supply chain and ERP, but also demographic data. And this was very, very actionable. The sales representatives knew how to prioritize their actions, and not only to prioritize, but also to personalize their actions. So for one customer, the action A is better, send an email, get a promotion, or anything like that. And with other customers, it's different, but they get personalized, and that way they increase the revenue significantly. And all of these is usually in these kinds of projects, it takes a lot more time. Here, this was 11 days, and this was the results. Very significant increase in retention, upsell, affecting the revenue very significantly. We also do basically help uncover or uncover black boxes of different business scenarios. So we knew how to reverse engineer different Google and Facebook marketing campaigns and enable a very large multinational advertising company to create better Google and Facebook campaigns, and generally, we're very good at helping companies in marketing optimization. On the predictive maintenance side, we also help companies create models in a very short time and get a very high impact. We just successfully finished the Siemens challenge, and we've been working also with a few car manufacturers on identifying problems that would lead to downtime in their robotic manufacturing lines of automotive. Also in gaming, basically, we're very, we have a lot of experience in any customer facing, and this is again closing with the customer facing side that we can help with in creating a capability of creating models that any company that has a very large customer base, we can give them the capability of modeling any kind of questions around retention and customer acquisition, and increase the lifetime value of the customers in a very easy way. So just to close, I would say that the Pecan solution is revolutionary in a way that we help companies and we give them capabilities of creating predictive modeling and making it a lot more democratized. That the analyst that's part of the business unit can simply connect to data sources that they have internally and externally, adjust the model that they're looking for, that they're looking to solve, and create predictions that would affect immediately their business processes and ultimately the outcome.
Thanks,
so happy to take any questions.
This was great and very comprehensive. We've got two questions, and I want to take both at the same time, given we have a closure window coming very soon. One is, have you done any work on the judicial side, any kind of, let's say, legal side? Have you done any work where analytics has been embedded as part of the judicial or the legal aspect?
Today we have not. The predictive analytics that we do at this moment is more tabular data. So we use NLP as part of our processes. However, we don't at this point work with text documents or images or anything like that. So we're less in the legal domain in that aspect. If that answers the question.
Sure. And the second was more about, given this current pandemic where a lot of health informatics data is being analyzed to also kind of, let's say, determine the patterns over there. So something on the healthcare side, if you have done, would you like to speak about that, please?
Absolutely. So actually now we're deploying our first models in relation to that with one of our European clients, that we've developed a model that can help predict to a granularity of a zip code when will the market open or close according to the increase and the decrease of the COVID-19 levels. Basically ingesting a lot of data sources that are both epidemiologic about the infection data, but also different data sets that are very much indicative of financial and general business activity. So that way, we basically help our clients understand and plan their actions according to is this a specific area and region going to be quarantined, going to be shut down, or are we actually open for business more? So that's basically as part of our response to the COVID-19 crisis.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Asher. This was really fascinating. And
pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. And I think for the global participants, if you've noticed in the last 75 minutes, I think the range of the aspects, what you could see from three AI specific, these ventures and outfits, specifically when we talk about Asher talking about algorithm as a service, Richard talk about the enormous possibilities what computer vision can bring to the table, and Arun talked about more specifically about a platform with ensemble configuration which can solve the large, complex, and unresolved problem. I think it's a great platform in terms of having you all together talking about this thing. Thank you so much, Dr. Shai, for facilitating this session. And thanks, Kavita and Gal, for facilitating the speakers for this. And thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much for, you can directly connect with these three leaders. They are available and present on the LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with them. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.